What is going on? It's Imi, and we yet again have another Druid build. This one seems to be a very fun core-based damage earth skill that isn't the typical landslide, and it's going to hit very high as we are using Boulder. Let's get right into it. We're going to start with the build. This is going to use Nature's Fury quite a bit, so I have a symbiotic aspect included here. So when Nature's Fury, the passive does trigger a free skill, either Earth or Storm typically. Your non-ultimate cooldowns get reduced by 4 to 8 seconds. Then we're taking Aspect of the Mending Stone for Earth and Bulwark. This build is going to be very, very tanky. We're taking 3 defensive skills, and you have the possibility to take 4, as those are going to work very well with each other. So we're taking that to give us a very long Earthen Bulwark of 9 seconds total. Then we're taking Aspect of Retaliation. This one is very good for core skills. Like I mentioned, we're taking 3 defensive skills, and we have other skills that modify our Fortify. So we're going to get pretty much our max Fortify quite often, and we can do 20 to 40% increased damage. Then we're taking Aspect of Might. This one is just a placeholder, 20% extra damage reduction. So there's a few things you can play around with. You can do Aspect of the Cyclonic Force, since we are taking that as well. So this one will be better for group play. So I'll leave that in the slot for now, since we are taking Cyclone Armor. Then we're taking Ballistic Aspect. For when fortified, you get 2 extra Earth rank skills, so free damage there. And you're always going to be fortified with this build. And our main guy right here for damage dealer is Aspect of Metamorphic Stone. This makes Boulder now a core skill, and instead of having a 10-second cooldown, it just costs 60 spirit, which is quite high, but we'll work around that, and can do pretty much another 100% extra damage. In the weapon slot, that would be 200% extra damage, so 160 to 200%. That's essentially 3 times the damage of the original Boulder. So it does a chunk of damage, and Boulder is a continuous damaging attack. Then we have Aspect of the Natural Balance. So this one will give you, when performing a Storm skill, your Earth damage will do another 45% crit damage. Add another 50% to that. That is almost 75% crit damage, just like that. Then we're taking Crashland Aspect for Earth skills deal up to 50% more crit strike damage to a crowd controlled enemy, and all of your enemies should be crowd controlled, as Boulder does a knockback, which is a crowd control. Then we're taking Aspect of Nature's Savagery. This one synergizes with our symbiotic aspect over here and our Nature's Fury. So this one will allow your werewolf skills to function as storm skills and werebear skills to function as earth skills. And based on how it reads, I think that it also means that the werebear can be procced from storm, and werewolf skills can be procced from earth skills. I'm not 100% sure if that's the case, but if it's not the case, it's also fine. It's actually somewhat better for us, as it will proc the skills we want more often. But either way, it works really well. So for the skills, like I mentioned, so we're taking 3 defensive skills. That's Blood Howl, Earthen Bulwark, and Cyclone Armor. Then we're taking Trample for mobility, and then we are taking Boulder and Storm Strike. For our spirit boons, we want some extra spirit. We're taking Gift of the Stag for 10 spirit. Then we're taking 5% increased crit strike chance and 30% damage. You could remove it and switch to Energize to keep that spirit up more often. So if your spirit regen is actually pretty bad effectively when playing the game and seeing how this works, then you can switch to Energize. But for now, we'll throw that in there. Then for Wolf, we're taking Bolster for 10% life Fortify every time you use a defensive skill. So constantly you'll be gaining Fortify back with those 3 defensive skills. And then we have Obsidian Slam for every 10th kill will cause our next Earth skill to overpower. And this could happen after just clearing a mob just like that. A whole mob of trash enemies can be killed with 1 Boulder, and you can continuously overpower in that sense. So you will be overpowering a lot, and that will do a ton more damage and also make a Boulder stun the enemy. So coming to the skill tree, we are taking Storm Strike for our auto attack. This is a storm ability which will also trigger your other effects, such as Nature's Fury. That one isn't too useful for the basic attack, but it's still there, as well as helpful for the Aspect of Natural Balance for those 4 seconds to give you a lot more damage for your Earth skills. Then we are taking Enhanced Storm Strike and Fierce Storm Strike. As usual, this is pretty common in my builds, but we're getting, immobilization, we are getting vulnerable enemies, and we are getting 25% extra damage reduction. So this build is going to be so tanky. I think it actually might be one of the tankiest builds that I've made, just because of the use of defensive skills and defensive buffs. Then we're taking Heart of the Wild. We want that increased spirit, and then we're also taking Wild Impulses for 9% more spirit use and 15% more damage. So the goal is you don't need to use a lot of boulders to really chunk down the enemies, especially elites. You might be able to just one-hit them as well. So that's really cool. We're not taking any actual core skills because Boulder is now our core skill. So let's go down to our defensive skills. We are going to max Earthen Bulwark. Earthen Bulwark is going to be our most important defensive skill. So we want to have a lot of Fortify here. We're essentially going to get 100% Fortify quite often. but we're having a big barrier of 63%, and Mending Stone here will replenish barrier, so if you get hit, you can keep getting kills to max that out back to that 63%. So having those points in Bulwark actually help quite a bit, and then also we have, you know, the longer duration. That means the cooldown on this will be very short, and you know, our other skills using Nature's Fury will really keep that permanently up. So we have Unstoppable as well, and we have more Fortify. So Fortify, just assume 100% Fortify. I'm not even gonna repeat myself on that. We're taking Cyclone Armor, so we get 10% extra damage reduction, physical and non-physical, due to now putting Aspect of Cyclonic Force in there, and we are helping our team members as well. We do have a knockback, and you have a guaranteed vulnerable when you go into a group of enemies and use it, or if it triggers from Nature's passive. Then we have Blood Howl to get 20% life back. We'll be getting kills a lot, cooldown will be really low, and you will get 20 spirit back. So that will help you really spam and throw a lot of boulders if you ever need that. Then we're also just going to take a little bit more protection here with 5% non-physical resistance and another 15% damage reduction, and as you have 3 defensive skills, you will always have this up. Then we're taking 18% increased damage to distant enemies. Every time you are throwing a boulder, you are going to CC them, and they'll be distant most of the time, so 18% right there. That's also why we're not taking Predatory Instinct. We don't need to be in melee range at all during this build, except for Storm Strike, which is just a generator, and hopefully you don't need to use it too often, so that is not really going to be very effective. Then we come down to our main damage dealer. We got Boulder maxed out. Now I don't know if you need to max it out when you have this aspect, since this one now just gives you, you know, a certain range of damage. I don't know if that multiplies with this number here, but assuming it does, we'll max that out. Here it does a slow for 30% at the end of its path, but if it's overpowered, enemies are stunned for 4 seconds, so that's really cool, and it'll obviously do a lot of damage, so very good for getting the stagger to proc on bosses or just stunning a elite. And then also when you're fortified, like always, you get 20% extra crit chance, so that's really good. Then Boulder is a nature magic and earth skill, so earth skills deal 15% extra damage to anything CC'd, guaranteed, and then you have Fortify over 50%, that's another 12% damage, and then lastly, crits with earth damage will fortify you as well. Then we obviously have Trample for our mobility. We are going to take Savage Trample to get 20 extra spirit. Then we're taking some more buffs for that, so we have Nature Magic, 12% more damage to elites with Boulder, Natural Disaster for 12% increased damage to vulnerable enemies, and they will have a guaranteed vulnerable stack on them from Cyclone Armor or possibly from Fierce Storm Strike. And then we are taking Resonance for 6% more damage and 18% more damage if you use your Storm Strike first or a Storm ability, and then your Boulders. And then obviously we're taking Nature's Fury to cast an Earth skill. That has a 20% chance to trigger a free Storm skill of the same category. So now this is where, you know, how we're using this to really help us out. So obviously we have Boulder. This is now a core skill. When you use that, you might pop a Lightning Storm or a Tornado. A Tornado I think would be better. It would just throw a Tornado in for some extra AoE damage. This one is a proc skill. I'm not sure how that works, but now that we have Aspect of the Nature's Savagery, I'm not too sure if it'll proc these Werebear and Werewolf skills. So if it does, then our Earth skill will trigger a Werewolf skill, and it could possibly trigger Shred if you're in melee range, which I don't think you'll be in quite often with this build. But this is where the bread and butter is, where a lot of those skills will be proccing. We have 3 skills here. 20% chance to trigger is pretty good. So when you trigger a Earthen Bulwark, you have a chance to trigger either a Blood Howl in that case and a Cyclone Armor, and that is just going to help a ton with extra damage. If it triggers Blood Howl, then you get a free 20 spirit just like that, as well as the life. So that's pretty helpful. So for Symbiotic Aspect, it will actually reduce the cooldown of the skill that you just used, based on how it reads. That's what I'm pretty sure it does. So if you use an Earthen Bulwark and it triggers it, you'll get one of those will go by, but then your cooldown on Earthen Bulwark will go down, and you'll be able to use it continuously, which will also help as you're using these skills more often. Obviously, Nature's Fury could proc more often, so it kind of works on itself. And then when you're using either Cyclone Armor or Blood Howl, then every time that triggers, Earthen Bulwark will just trigger from that effect. So that's a free Earthen Bulwark, which will essentially mean that this Earthen Bulwark will be up 100% of the time, and getting kills will continue extending that time. So it's really perfect. You're going to be so tanky. You're always going to have a barrier up and fortify, of course. Then the cooldowns of these 2 skills will both go down 4 to 8 seconds every time that happens. So very, very useful. I think you'll be able to almost continuously run these, and I'm excited to try that out as well. If I get these items to make this build. If mobility isn't too important for you, you can even drop Trample and take Debilitating Roar, just to get more defensive skills and to make all of this proc even more. So quite cool. We're not using Nature's Fury for our main damage dealer at Boulder, but we're using it as a utility skill bar, and this thing is going to make us beastly and use all these effects offensively as well. So I'm definitely looking forward to trying that out. Now, most of these skills are on the Codex. However, most of the key ones, such as Aspect of Metamorphic Stone, that is not a Codex item. You'll need to get that as a drop, as well as Aspect of Nature's Savagery, and also Aspect of Natural Balance. So 3 of the main ones that do a lot of damage, you're going to want to get as a drop before really getting into this build. But if you want to just have fun with Boulder, I would suggest getting Aspect of Metamorphic Stone, and then you can go with any type of Boulder build that you see. And Symbiotic Aspect is also the last one. So those are the main ones. So this build isn't going to be one that you just go into the game and make, but it's a cool idea for someone that wants to have fun with boulders. I think Boulder is a cool build, just with the function of it and the damage of it. So let me know what you guys think about this build, and once the game comes out, give it a try and see how well it does. Paragon board isn't too bad for this. There's a lot of generic stuff for earth damage and crit damage and other things like that, so you can just work into those glyphs and those legendaries. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.